My life seemed to be going pretty well. I had just received my bachelor's degree at the college, and I got a pretty well-paying job as an office manager. The thing is, something felt like it was missing from my life. I wanted love. I wanted to have a wife to keep me company, but the only women I knew worked at the office, and they were drop-dead ugly. After coming home one night from a long day at work, I grabbed a soda and I sat down and booted up my computer. I was really desperate to find love as soon as possible, and it seemed that my only choice was to find it through a dating site. I visited a popular site, registered, and set up my interest in the hopes that I'd be matched with someone soon. The next morning, I woke up and turned my computer on once more. I noticed that there was a total of 2 matches, and strangely enough, one of them was a drop-dead ugly coworker. The other had no profile picture, but the name was unfamiliar. Knowing how desperate I was, I took a chance and private messaged this girl, asking to meet up at a local cafe that night. The person replied back about 3 minutes later, saying okay. I was very excited, but at the same time I was anxious to see how this would go. That night, I was bitterly exhausted from the tremendous amount of work I had to do at the office, but my excitement overpowered it as I got home quickly, changed, and drove off to the cafe. The cafe was only a quick 5 minutes from my house, so driving was no problem at all. I had no problem parking either, and soon enough, I was inside ready to see my blind date. To my utter astonishment, the most beautiful girl I had ever seen in my life approached me. Her most prominent feature was her eyes. The most gorgeous gray eyes in the world. "Hi," she said, smiling. "I'm Christy. You must be David. I saw your picture online." "Yeah, well, I sure as heck didn't see yours," I said, and we shared a laugh. I could already tell we were meant to be. Our first date turned out great. As it turns out, we did indeed have a lot in common. I dropped her off at her shabby apartment building. We partook in our first kiss. I left. At this point, I felt like the luckiest guy in the world. Like nothing could go wrong. Christy and I only dated for 4 months before I proposed to her. She said yes with a great excitement. Our wedding went like most, but with an absolute desolate turnout of people. The members of the audience included my mother, her father, a couple of my close coworkers, and a few of her friends. She was just so wonderful, and I was so in love. That night, I lost my virginity to her. Having a child this early in our marriage wouldn't be too good, and I wasn't financially able to afford a honeymoon. But she thought that was alright, and being with each other was all that really mattered. She was just so nice like that, and in place of a honeymoon, I helped her move her things into my humble home, where we would be living together. Our life together was going by so nicely. We were the perfect team. A few months later, I learned that one of my coworkers who attended my wedding, Kevin, was found dead with cuts all over his body. It was unidentified who did it or what really happened. They told me that they were going to medically examine his body in a couple days. This news really brought me down. That made my headache even worse. I had been getting pretty bad headaches, which I presumed was from being overworked. When I got home later that night, it appeared that Christy had already gone to bed. I wasn't very hungry, so I went to my room to join her. I immediately told her about my friend Kevin being found dead. She sat up suddenly and looked at me. She smiled. It was quite odd considering the situation. She said, "Don't worry, he'll be fine." I wasn't sure whether to be surprised or relaxed at her tone, but given her sweet nature, I just ignored it and went to sleep. The following morning, I woke up sick, coughing pretty badly and feeling the urge to vomit. I stayed home from work, which was the only nice part about it, besides the fact of Christy being so caring while I was in my need. "I love you. Feel better," were the relaxing words she spoke to me every so often that day. As night fell, she silently joined me in bed and turned off the lights. About 30 minutes in, I was having trouble sleeping, so I wrapped my arm around Christy in an attempt to hold her. But just then my hand froze. I just couldn't move. Her skin was as cold as ice. "Christy, are you okay?" I asked, but she didn't respond. I turned her over to reveal my wife, but in the most horrific way I could imagine her. I screamed as loud as I possibly could and shoved her away from me. I bolted to the bathroom. What I saw was Christy with her eyeballs were missing, and just empty bloody sockets. Her skin was pale white. I wasn't sure about any other detail, because my eyes weren't fully adjusted to the darkness. I just sat there and cried, until I suppose I fell asleep. Surprisingly, I felt rested and refreshed the next morning, but that quickly turned into fear as I remembered what I had seen. My vision was blurred and distorted, most likely due to my excessive amounts of crying. I had a push to overcome my fears about whatever I had witnessed the night before. I opened the door slowly, making sure that it didn't make a sound. I slowly turned towards the bedroom, and I noticed that she wasn't there. I heard something coming from the kitchen, metal something banging together. I rushed over to check out the scene. That's just when I saw my beautiful wife standing there, picking up pans that she had dropped. As soon as she saw me, she dropped them again. "What the hell happened last night?" she asked, sounded more concerned than angry. I felt like I had to throw up, and I did. I lied. She took the bait, unfortunately. "Oh well, feel better." She kissed me and went back up to cooking breakfast. My weekend wasn't off to a great start. I contemplated what I had seen, and what just happened. I just couldn't explain it. I tried to think past it like it would never happen again. But it did. It haunted my dreams. Her lifeless body, her lack of eyes. But the worst part of my nightmares were what it did. Her body would just stand up like a marionette and put its face to mine, sending this odor of rotting flesh into my nose. "There's no escape," it would whisper coldly. "We'll be together forever." Then it would grin like her regular beautiful smile. The smile that now sends shivers down my back. I thought I was losing my mind. I saw that thing everywhere. It was hiding behind a cubicle, laying down in the park. I was frantic to get away from it. It just wouldn't stop. I just wanted to be normal. I wanted Christy. My Christy. The one I fell in love with. Not this ghoul. I know I needed to end it. The following day I walked into my house, and I saw the body standing in the kitchen, slouched over, just like in my nightmares. I didn't take a minute to think before I grabbed it, shoving it in the oven. Resisting all of its struggles, I closed the door and turned it on. Although it was painful, I was relieved. The oven began to shake violently, and emitted screams which were so pain-filled it was horrible to hear. I ran out of the house. The pain-filled screams went on for another 10 minutes or so. But by then, my house was filled with a thick wall of black smoke. As I walked in, the shaking and screaming had stopped. The house felt dead, silent and eerie, like nothing was alive in the world. I walked up to the oven just to examine the remains, but what I pulled out destroyed me more than that thing ever could have. What I saw was my Christy, my wife, burned beyond return, but strangely, her eyes were completely intact. I fell to my knees just staring. I couldn't believe it. I was there for 15 minutes, 30 as the police started showing up. They came in and picked me up, and of course arrested me for being on the scene of the crime. I was put into a room and questioned, but luckily I was able to get my way out from under their persistent questioning. They concluded that I was a husband who just got home from work, finding the charred remains of his once beloved wife. They told me everything was going to be okay, and that I needed to rent a hotel room while they inspected. I knew it wasn't going to be alright. I knew what I had done, damn it. And do you want to know what's even worse? I still can see her. Whatever. I killed her, and I could never forgive myself. I ruined my life, her life, everyone's. I didn't want to go on. But here I am typing this. So, since I wanted to try to get through my insane depression, I attempted to go to work the next day. As I pulled in, I approached the doors, and I noticed that there was yellow caution tape in front, with a small note stuck to the door, reading, "This building has been condemned from operations until later notice due to chemical exposure creating hazardous working conditions. The State Department of Health." I felt chills run down my spine as I read the note. Not knowing what this would mean to me, I decided to go and get it checked out. I got in the car and sped down the road straight to my doctor. I neared his office and I threw the door open, revealing that I was the only patient there. The nurse escorted me to him, and I asked him if he could test my body for chemical intake. He said yes, and agreeing to do it. Shortly afterward, he diagnosed me with a disorder caused by the inhalation of a certain chemical. Trembling, I pleaded to him to read me the side effects that were included with the inhalation. He read them to me. Effects of inhalation or ingestion involves migraines, vomiting, weariness, and is uniquely linked to strange patterns involving all these senses. Long-term exposure may result in brain damage, mental instability, and severe hallucinations. I would like to say a big thank you to all of the patrons listed on screen right now. Dan R, Neophyte Games, Chaos X, Mr. Swiston, Official Jerboa, JY Pyromancer, Hayden MH, Ethan A, Daniel H, Maximilian Charles P, Deneen H, Go Cute Puppy LLC, and Young Sykes. Guys, thank you so much, and I cannot say it enough. I really do mean it when I tell you, you do keep this channel alive. I'm so grateful. Thank you.